What's up, folks? Welcome back to Standard Living. Today, we're going to be talking about sawmill blades. Not which blade is best, not a blade comparison, and definitely not a sales pitch. And one of the biggest mistakes I see new sawmill owners make is buying whatever blade came with their sawmill and never trying anything else. Then they wonder why their cut quality isn't great, why their blade seems to dull out quickly, and why their sawmill seems to struggle cutting certain logs. And the truth is, there is no one magical blade out there that's going to do everything you want it to do. There's a few key factors that are going to determine the best blade for your setup and your operation. Number one is your sawmill setup. Are you running a manual mill or are you running a full hydraulic sawmill? Different blades react differently by the sawmill you're running. And two is going to be your horsepower. Are you running a 9 horsepower engine or an 80 horsepower diesel? And three is going to be the wood species you're cutting. The blades you're using for pines and other softwoods may not be the best choice for oaks and other hardwoods. Four is going to be your production goals. Are you trying to push out as much lumber as you can to fill orders every day? Or are you the guy that's a weekend warrior, sawmilling as a hobby and cutting your own wood? And five is going to be your budget. How much money do you want to spend on blades and how often do you want to buy them? Today I'm going to be sharing my experience. I'm going to show you what I've learned running different blades here at our sawmill. And I hope to help you find a good starting point for your sawmill operation and choosing the right blade for your job. And while we're talking about sawmill blades, I'm going to be cutting this yellow pine here into 1x6s with my Norwood LM30 instead of staring at my ugly face. And just a disclaimer, don't take my word as gospel. What works for me may not work for you. Every sawmill operation is different. Every sawmill has different horsepower. Every sawyer has different goals. Heck, I'm still learning myself. But what I'm sharing with you today comes from my real world experience sawmilling custom lumber. So use this video as a starting point, and then you go out and experiment. Try different blades, and then find out what works best for your operation. You won't regret it. So now let's talk about hook angle. Hook angle is the angle of the tips on the sawmill blade. There's a wide variety of sawmill tips and different types of blades, but your most common is going to be between a 7 and 10 degree. In your 10 degree blades, you're going to find a smoother cut. It's going to be good in most of your softwoods, medium to softwoods like poplar, pines, soft maples. Then you get all the way down to your 7 degrees. Now these are going to really shine in hardwoods like oaks and hickories and things like that. Now if you watched any of my videos in the past, you know I love these 8 degree blades by Cooks. These things are kind of an in-between blade. They're great in softwoods, they're super fast, and they cut hardwoods pretty good too. And as much as I love these blades and how fast they cut through pines, they really shine with a higher horsepower engine than what I have on my sawmill. Now if I'm cutting pine all day long, I'll go with something like this 10 degree right here. Now this blade is by Simmons, and it's got a 3/4 tooth spacing. So these teeth are a little closer together than your typical 7/8 tooth spacing. Then these cut nice and fast, and they're smooth. They also make super fine cuts, and they don't mar up the wood or leave washboarding like some of your more aggressive blades do. If I'm cutting a lot of red oak and white oak and hardwoods like that, I'm going to go down to something like this 7 degree here. It's really aggressive and it cuts hardwoods really well. They don't always make the smoothest cuts, but when you're really trying to push through a hardwood and you don't want wavy lumber, you go to something like this. Now if I were to choose a 10 degree blade or something a lot smoother or finer, your blade may end up wandering a little bit in the wood if you're trying to push too hard, and it makes for a really slow cut. Now if I'm cutting a stubborn log like a hickory, those things can be like cement. Sometimes I want to choose something like this blade here. This is a saber-tooth stellite cut blade. Every third tooth on this blade is a carbide. And these things have no problem gnawing through some super hard woods. And they last a long time too. So just to simplify tooth angle, it's really how aggressively the tooth on a sawmill blade attacks the wood. Now, one topic a lot of people don't talk about enough is horsepower. We're talking about big mills versus small mills. A blade isn't working alone, it's working with the sawmill. And a small sawmill with a small engine may benefit greatly from a blade like a 10 degree or something a little less aggressive. Now, a larger commercial mill may allow more blade choices because it's not limited on horsepower. And a blade that works fantastic on a large hydraulic mill may not be the best choice for a small manual mill like this one. Now, while we're talking about sawmill blades, I do want to give a quick announcement. Coming up soon, we're going to be doing another blade giveaway contest on this channel. We're going to be giving away a blade sampler pack from Cook's Saw Manufacturing. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that giveaway when it launches. And while I'm here talking about blade giveaways, Mr. Danny Hackworth was the last winner for the sampler pack of Cook's blades we did last time. And Mr. Danny, if you're watching this right now, make sure you email me your address and information, because we can't send you the blades if we don't have your information or your address. So I'll give you a few weeks to reach out to me. If not, I'm going to have to give those blades out to somebody else so somebody else can enjoy them. Now let's get back to sawing this pine and talking about sawmill blades. Right now I'm using a 10 degree blade cutting this pine up, but this white oak here is a perfect example why blade decision matters. What works great in pine may not be my favorite choice in white oak. Different woods can place a different demand on blades. So let's talk about some of the available brand options there are out there for sawmill blades. So there are hundreds, if not thousands of brands out there that always claim they are the best. They're either the best quality or the best cutting or the best price on the market. And you can take all of that information and throw it right out the window because price doesn't always matter, the brand doesn't always matter. And if anybody claims that their blade is the best, don't believe it. Because like I said before, the best sawmill blade for you is really going to depend on your setup and your operation. Now I'm going to show you a few blades I've had great experience with. And if you watch any of my videos, this is the Cook's 8 degree. This is the 8 degree super sharp. And you know I love this blade. This is one of my favorite blades I've found so far. It's a very versatile blade. It is 8 degrees. It works well in hardwoods and softwoods. It's not the best blade for hardwoods, and it's not the best blade for softwoods, but it's a good little in-between. This blade is very fast. It's very aggressive, and it's probably not recommended for a small horsepower sawmill. My sawmill is a 13.5 horsepower Norwood LM30. And for fun, we'll call it a 14 horsepower. And I'll tell you, it's just on the edge of being able to push this blade efficiently before it stalls the engine out. Like I said, it is a much more aggressive blade than most blades. It definitely wants some power to push it, but it's very fast and efficient cutting pine, and it never leaves a wave in the board. And it may not be the best blade for your setup, but for my setup, it's an excellent blade. But there are tons of brands out there and tons of different types of blades that really do well, which takes me to the next blade we have here. This blade here is a Simon's blade. Now, this is a 10 degree bimetal blade, but the tooth spacing on this thing is 3/4 inch instead of 7/8 like the Cooks here and most of your other blades. I haven't tried these in hardwood yet, but these things will rip like butter through some softwood. I have cut some poplar and some pine with this thing, and they cut super smooth, especially with this tight blade spacing. I think the Cook's blade is about $10 more than this blade here. These are blades I got from Steve at Burton. And these will run you around $15 per blade. Now here's another Simon's blade right here. This also comes from Burton. Now this one is a 7/8 tooth spacing, 10 degree, and it's a little more aggressive than 3/4 spacing blades. But these are excellent blades, cut really nice and smooth in softwoods, and you can't beat the price on these things. So if you're on any kind of budget and you want a decent blade, check out Burton Milling Solutions. I'll leave a link below for that as well. Now for every one of these blades I'm showing you today, I'm going to leave a link in the description for every one of these guys where you can find these blades at. Now for the next blade up on the list here, this is called a Ripper 37. Now this is one I've yet to use yet, so I can't tell you honestly what my opinion is on it, but I am eager to try it out. I've heard a lot of good things about these blades. Heard a lot of people recommend these blades in the past. I think the 37 in the name is because the blade's supposed to last 37% longer than most blades. Now this is a 7-degree blade. This reminds me a lot of the Cook's blade, the finish on it, fit and finish, and the stiffness of it. So I can't tell you from personal experience how good this blade is because I have not tried it yet, but I'm eager to, and I'm gonna put it in some hardwood and some softwood and try it out in both directions, see how well it works. But I've heard those are really good. If you used those before, if you're watching this video and you have used these blades, the Ripper 37s, tell me your opinion on these blades. I know I'm gonna find out myself, but I'd like to hear your opinion if you used them. Now being a 7-degree blade, I'm sure this thing is probably designed for hardwoods, but I bet it will zip through some pines and softwoods as well. It's got kind of a dull finish to it, kind of a sandblasted, bead blasted finish. Yeah, I'm eager to try this blade out. I'm really curious to see how this thing works in some white oak. We're gonna find out here soon on that. And I do have a link also for who sells those blades, and I'll put that in the description as well. Like I said, I'm not telling you these are the best brands on the market, but they are some of the best ones I've found to use anyway. Especially when you're custom sawing lumber every day and you've got to get orders out and you need a reliable, dependable blade and something you know is not gonna fail on you. Like I said, I came to this one conclusion: there is no perfect blade for everything. Now, that's just a list of some of the blades we have here at our sawmill. I don't have a ton of different brands on hand. I do have some up at the house by the sharpener. I got some wood miser blades and some other saber tooth blades, but most of those are used. They're not new blades, and I've used them quite a bit. And some of the blades I have up there by the sharpener, I wouldn't recommend anybody use, but they may be better for you than me. I don't know. Blades are pretty important for us for reliability. We want a good blade that's gonna last in the wood. We don't wanna have to constantly change out blades all day long. So let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about carbide blades. When it comes to these carbon steel blades, there's a million different options for you. And there is a huge performance gap between some of these blades. When it comes to carbide blades, I think the biggest comparison is price. Because there's some blades out there that's gonna cost you near 200 bucks, then some of them are right around 100 bucks. But in my honest opinion, a lot of the carbide blades I've run, which is really not that many, but they pretty much cut the same way. Now when I did that last Apex carbide blade test, well, it really wasn't a test. I was just running through a bunch of logs, a bunch of trashy logs, and ended up running through a bunch of telephone poles, and I ran through that big eye bolt just to see if it would cut metal just for you guys, and I destroyed the blade. I ruined it. But I had a lot of comments about that, not about ruining the blade, but about why would anybody buy a carbide blade when you can buy a ton of bimetal blades for the price they cost. And again, it goes back to your situation and your sawmilling operation, your lumber demand, and your budget. Now, if I was a huge commercial mill, which I'm not, I got a little manual LM30. We got the little edger here, the range road. Now, we do as much as we can with what we have here. We will be upgrading that sawmill soon. But if I had a big production mill and I pushed out lumber, I had employees here and we were running lumber all day long, which we kind of do that anyway, but not on the kind of scale I'm talking about. If we were pushing out 6,000 to 10,000 board feet a day with our sawmill, which we're not with this. Now, I definitely want to try something like a carbide instead of a bimetal blade. Now, a good carbide blade will cut through just about any kind of log you throw at it. The biggest advantage to that is you can cut probably all day long with one blade and not have to change out. Because if you are cutting 6,000 to 10,000 board feet per day, you're changing blades quite a bit. And the guys that are cutting that much, they're racing through that lumber. And I guarantee you they don't use no crappy blade. But if you think about the downtime it takes to change blades, if you were to change blades 5 times per day, and it took you about 10 minutes per blade to change out, that's almost an hour you've lost during that day in production time when you could have had a carbide blade on there and not had to change it all day long. Now, when you do hit metal with them, it will break the teeth and you will have to change it out then. And that's a pretty big expense. And I think that's what people fear the most about carbide blades is as soon as you ruin it, you're out a couple $100 bucks or 150 or 100 bucks, whatever it costs. It's still an expensive blade when you can buy a box of blades for what a carbide blade costs. But if you're in a production setting and you're pushing out tons of lumber each day, every time you change that blade out, it's some downtime. And if you can reduce that downtime, that's a lot more money produced than what that blade costs. Which brings me to this other blade we have here. This right here is a saber tooth stellite cut blade. Now, I've heard lots of people brag about these blades. A lot of people do love these. Now, these are your kind of in-between option between a bimetal blade and a carbide, because what this thing has is every third tooth is a carbide. So even when your bimetal part of this blade starts to wear down, your carbides are still cutting. Now, these are very long-lasting blades. This is a saber tooth blade, and it does come from Norwood, and they are quite a bit cheaper than some of your other carbide blades. This is a good in-between option right here. If you want a long-lasting blade and you don't want to pay the $200 or $150 for a carbide blade, look at these stellite cuts. They're a really good in-between for long-lasting blades. So let's talk about pricing here. Now, a set of 5 of these blades right here, these stellite cuts, are about $150, which is about the same price as one of the Apex Carbide blades, also made by Norwood. But let me tell you, the Apex Carbide blade, now that is a nice blade. I really enjoy cutting with that thing. We actually have a new one on the way now. Say there's lots of different blade choices. You don't have to carry all these kind of blades on hand. You can go with 1 blade or you can go with 100 blades. And one other blade I have here, I wasn't really gonna show it, but this is your Wood Miser double hard blade. Now, I strongly dislike these blades. I do have some, and I sharpen them, and I use these when I have some trash wood or something I'm afraid that's gonna have nails in. I've had a very rough time with these blades. Not saying that they're bad blades, they're just not good for me. And I know a lot of people swear by those blades and they love them, but I think a lot of them hadn't tried anything else. And don't take my word as gospel. Like I said, there's a lot of people who love those double hards who have tried other blades. They're just not the best blade for me. What I look for in a blade is something that's gonna last a long time, because I don't want wavy wood. I wanted a quality cutting blade that's gonna last me a while and I get my money's worth out of. Because let's face it, your biggest consumable cost on Sawmill is your blades. You're gonna spend more money on blades for the lifetime of that sawmill than what that sawmill cost. At least I have anyway. And like I said before, this is not a comparison video, and I'm not bashing anybody else's blades. I'm just telling you what works for me from my experience of sawmilling on a daily basis with a manual sawmill with a 13.5 horsepower engine. Now, any one of these blades can be better for you or worse for you, depending on your setup, because everybody's setup's different. And one thing I do want to talk about is mistakes and complaints people have with sawmill blades. I think one of the biggest complaints I've heard is people blaming the blade for a bad sawmill setup. It's always important to make sure your mill is set up properly, your blade roller guides are set up properly and leveled out where the blades are running true, making sure your carriage is level and not dipping in the front or raising up in the front. Because every mill is different, and every mill has a different type of setting they like. But really check over your mill, make sure everything's set up correctly, everything's level, everything's working smoothly before you even think about sawing a log. I almost feel bad for people who's never tried any other blades but the one that come with their sawmill, or any other brands or any other styles. Because if you complain about that blade and you hadn't tried anything else, that's on you. And one thing I see all the time, because I do sharpen blades, and I sharpen for a select few people besides just myself, is people running blades way too long. When the blade starts to dull out, take that blade off and change it out before it's completely dull. Because I see people smoking these blades and turning them black and just ruining the blade before they change it out, thinking, well, now it's dull, I'll go ahead and change it, put a new blade on there, and then expecting to get new blade results out of a resharpened blade that's been smoked. And one big misconception people have is expensive is always better. That's not always the case with sawmill blades. Let me tell you, there's some pretty excellent blades out there for 14 or 15 bucks per blade, like these Simon's blades here from Burton. Don't just assume because you buy an expensive name brand blade, it's going to be the best blade out there. But like I said before, I'm not here to tell you which blade is better than the other. This is just a good starting point for you to kind of help you out, and maybe you can avoid some of those rough hurdles that I had coming up, trying new blades and doing different things. And I'm just sharing my experience in hopes that it gives you a good starting point. And for you new sawyers out there, and new sawmill owners, I want you to know it's okay to screw up a few logs and screw up a few blades. It's all in the learning experience. As long as you're learning from your mistakes, you're doing it right. Now I want to give you a few of my recommendations that I think even more experienced sawyers than I am would agree with. There's a few things you need to learn before you cut the perfect board, or even worry about the perfect blade. Learn your sawmill tension. Learn how much to tighten that blade. Learn the correct tension pressure for your sawmill and your setup and the blade you're using. I know every sawmill manufacturer has a recommended pressure or setting or something on their machine that tells you when your blade is tight. But that's not always the case, because not every blade is the same size, and some blades need a little more tension than others. Next one is learn your feed rates. Learn how fast your sawmill can handle a log and the blade you're using. Because I have seen people who just try to cram the mill through the wood, stalling the engine out, leaving wavy boards, and they're just pushing way too hard. And some people push way too slow. And when you're pushing too slow, you can potentially burn that blade up because you're not moving that sawdust quick enough out of the cuts. And the next thing is tracking. Make sure your blade guide rollers are tracking straight. Make sure your blade's in the right position on there. Make sure everything is right and level with the sawmill. Sometimes the sawmill head can be off and be leaning forward or backwards. And that'll give you really bad wavy cuts. Your blade will want to raise up or dip or dive in the wood. So learn that blade tracking. Make sure your mill's running correctly down that track. Make sure that blade's running straight and true through that wood. And the next thing is blade maintenance. Blade maintenance is an important factor to making your blade last as long as you can possibly make it last. I know the blades doesn't last forever, but if you can get 5 or 6 sharpenings out of it, you're going to get way ahead of the game rather than just cutting one time and throwing that blade away and ordering new ones. I hear a lot of people tell me, blades are too cheap. I don't want to sharpen them. I just want to buy new blades. Well, that's all fine and dandy if you only use 1 blade per week or 1 blade per month. But if you plan on cutting any kind of quantity of lumber, you want to start taking care of your blades and make sure you pull those blades out before they're completely dull. Your blades, your sawmill, and your wallet's going to thank you later. And one of the biggest things I'm going to recommend is go experiment. Try different blades, different brands, different hook angles. Go out and form your own experience and opinion of each one of these type of blades. Don't just go off what some salesman on Facebook told you was the best blade out there. And if you made it this far into this video, there's one main thing that I want you to take out of this video, if nothing else. Stop looking for the best blade. Start looking for the best blade for your operation. The best blade out there is the one that consistently helps you make quality lumber. I'm still learning, I'm still experimenting, and I encourage you to go out and do the same. I hope this video helps any of you new sawyers out there and veteran sawyers alike. I'm not claiming to know everything about blades. I'm just here to share my experience and hope it helps you along the way and give you a good starting point with your sawmill experience. What blade are you running on your sawmill right now? Let me know in the comments. What sawmill you're using, what type of wood you're mostly cutting, and tell me what kind of blade you've had a great experience with. I'd like to know. Drop that in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.